Our scriptures over the last several weeks have come from Matthew's Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus has really taken the opportunity to disciple his followers, to teach and to share what God's kingdom is all about. We've also had corresponding readings from the New Testament and in primarily the letters of Paul, and a variety of things from the Old Testament that are really the law and the law for the Hebrew people and what God expects and anticipates from his people. And then Jesus really brings that all together and presents it in a way where he turns it on his head. And today is just another day of that Sermon on the Mount, where he is talking to his followers about really what's expected. And it's some tough stuff. So we'll hear the gospel from Matthew and really perhaps feel convicted. I know I did. Jesus says to the disciples, "You have heard it said, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist an evildoer. But if anyone strikes you on the right cheek, turn the other also. If anyone wants to sue you and take your coat, give them your cloak as well. If anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go also the 2nd mile. Give to everyone who begs from you, and do not refuse anyone who wants to borrow from you. You have heard it said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be children of your Father in heaven. For God makes the sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. For if you love those who love you, what reward do you have? Do not even the tax collectors do the same? And if you only greet your brothers and sisters, what more are you doing than others? Do not even the Gentiles do the same? Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect." This is the gospel of the Lord. Again, this is one of the continuing texts where, as a preacher, someone who reads the gospel text, instead of just saying, "This is the gospel of the Lord," I always feel like perhaps there should be a question mark. This is the gospel of the Lord? Because I think Jesus is bringing to us some tough stuff. And today, I think as we think about all of those things that the gospel lined up for us, I must say that I'm kind of disappointed. Disappointed in the layout. Disappointed, perhaps even a little bit of what feels like heavy stuff from Jesus. Heavy, heavy stuff. Follow all these rules. Be holy because God is holy. Follow these rules. Don't curse, don't gossip, don't plot revenge, don't hate your neighbor, don't lie or cheat or steal. Plus all the ones that he listed last week, too. These are hard things. Jesus is commanding his disciples, then and now, to do some of the most difficult things there are. I feel like you're being shaken that stick at least that's what I had. Don't cheat, don't do any of these things. Really culminating all together with the kicker, be perfect as God is perfect. Be perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. Really? Perfect. I mean, I want to be godly and follow Jesus. I want to do good things. I want to be faithful. But how do you do all of these things and live righteously? I mean, I find it hard that I was a person growing up who was called Miss Goody Two Shoes and Miss Missy Perfect, Missy P. I claim that I'm a perfectionist. And much of my life I've struggled with that, and I've worn that name badge. It has also then brought on other name badges because as a perfectionist, life becomes a vision of difficulty, of expectation for others and for myself. Things don't seem to measure up. High standards are not bad, but they can push you to places that are unfair. Unfair for, in my case, for myself, but unfair with the people that I relate to. And so this is a struggle that I have carried on for much of my life. It's an all or nothing kind of game. I mean, for example, growing up when I was little, I would take on a new project or learn something new, like playing the piano. And I wasn't a soloist by the second lesson, so I wanted to quit. Baseball, I'd strike out, want to quit. I would try a new project, and it didn't come out perfectly like the instructions said. What good is that? I didn't want to do it again. And I grew up this way as a child, and I struggled, and it became harder for me to relate with others. Because a lot of them, my perfectionist tendencies, people thought I was putting on them, and that they could do nothing to please me. I still struggle with this tendency. I find that much of my life I have to remind myself of this name tag that I have worn most of my life, that it still sits there. And so I challenge you with what you fixate on, what labels you wear, what things hold you back, what labels have other people put on you that might have defined your life. Any of these sound familiar? There's so many that we take on and that we wear and that we really absorb for ourselves. My perfectionism became for me not just a name tag and a way of life, but it became who I am. Much so that, as I said, it caused struggles for myself. And I noted that one of the big struggles for me in that was vulnerability. As a perfectionist, I put out a shell that made it hard for people then to connect with me, because I didn't want people to see that I really wasn't perfect, that I didn't have it all together. I remember one time, though, it really cost me, because as I was growing up, I was a teenager and I was looking for a job, and all of my friends started getting jobs at the local dime store or the local fast food restaurant. And I thought, how are they getting jobs? And so I began asking, and they kept telling me, well, so-and-so told me, well, so-and-so told me. And I went to these people and I said, well, why didn't you let me know? They thought I had everything all together and that I didn't have any needs and I didn't have the will or the want for a job. And so my exterior posturing of being a perfectionist didn't communicate who I really was or what my needs really were. So for much of my life, I began to, I didn't realize this for much of my life. And finally, after a lot of therapy and money and some work, I really began to see just what I was doing to myself. And I put these questions out to you about the labels that you wear, and I tell you my story so that perhaps you can take a look at your own interior and your own labeling and name-calling of yourself and ask yourself just who you are, who you've allowed others to claim you as, and who who you've claimed yourself to be. Because I think that when we look at who it is that we have claimed ourselves to be, we can ask ourselves the question, is this, first off, who we want to be? But more importantly, is this who God created us to be? In our baptisms, is this who God named us to be? God has called each of us and given each of us a specific name. Above all, God has called us child, beloved, and my own. And often we let these other name labels take that away from us. And we let these things assert themselves in ways that project who we are to the world instead of the real name tag that we wear. Children of the one true King. That God has claimed us and named us and has given us purpose and power. So let us not dare cover that over with all of these other ideas of who we think we are. Now, there is a saying that St. Augustine had said, and I'm going to try and find it here. He basically said, live to be who you are. And he was specifically talking to people that when they came up for communion, let the bread and the wine be in you and let it live out of you. Let Jesus live out of you. So be who you are called to be. I found that when I was growing up and in my work, I had a friend, Julie, and her father, he's an Arlington, Virginia firefighter. He was kind of tough as nails guy, but he really had a deep sense of humor. And one day, he presented me with a gift, and it was kind of multi-layered. I discovered much later. This gift that he gave me was a toothbrush, a small red toothbrush with a label on the handle that said, "I'm perfect." And I thought, uh-oh, what did I do here? What kind of way is he giving me a little nudge, and what is he trying to say to me? Are my teeth yellow? What did I not do right in his family code? But what he said to me is that I needed to lighten up on my 24-year-old self. That I needed to, instead of live by all of the various rules that I had placed on myself and the expectations that kept me from really relating to others, to lighten up and to let the law of love guide my life. And that if I wanted to be perfect, that I seek God's perfection. And I really didn't know what he meant by that. And it's still working that out. That gives me a new adventure each day as I struggle with being a recovering perfectionist and as I struggle with what it means to be God's child. I think that as you look at your own labels, as you consider where your life has taken you, I really encourage you that no matter who you are and where you are and what you've thought about yourself, that right now, today, and this verge of Lent, to remind yourself that you are God's child, holy and beloved. And that whatever has gone before today, whatever is labels you wear, that God is claiming you and naming you, saving you, and turning your life in such a way that you live it for God. Now, I can make these claims after being involved in a community of faith for most of my life, and learning and really seeing day after day, week after week, even when I fall down and forget it time and again, that it is the community of faith who reminds us that it is Jesus who's gone before us. It is Jesus who understands. It is Jesus who knows the things that we do to one another and the things that we call ourselves. Jesus knows, though, too, what it is to forgive rather than begrudge, and to embrace rather than protect, and to share rather than hoard, and to heal rather than wound, especially when we ourselves walk so much of our lives wounded and hurt. Jesus is the one who not only talked this talk, but he walked this walk on his road to Jerusalem, enduring what he did all his way to the cross. He embraced death itself so that we might know, experience, and trust just how much God loves us and continually gives us and calls us to receive the abundant life and to live it. So I do encourage and invite each of you this week to take whatever name tags that you have worn through your life and put them out there, name it. Because I think once we name it, that we're able to let it go, that it doesn't have the power over us anymore. And we can really begin to live into the name, the label, the people we really are, children of the one true King. Remembering each day that we have a God who loves us, who forgives us, who respects us, and who claims us. So just again to remind you of that one song that we've just sung. I've been saved, I've been changed, I've been set free. Amazing grace is the song I can sing. Hello, my name is child of a one true King. No longer defined by the wreckage we've left behind, because the one who makes all things new has proven it's true. Look at my life. My name, hello, my name is child of the one true King. Amen.